Have you ever shared a dream out loud? A plan, a hope, a breakthrough, only to watch it slowly die under the weight of other people's opinions, questions, and quiet doubt? If that's ever happened to you, I want you to stay with me, because what I'm about to share isn't about secrecy out of fear. It's about wisdom. It's about protecting what God is still forming. Picture this. You finally get some good news, a new opportunity, a healing, a relationship shifting, a financial breakthrough. Your heart is full. You want to tell somebody, anybody, right away. So you do. You call your friend, you post it online, you mention it at dinner with family, and almost instantly, the questions start. Are you sure? What if it doesn't work out? Someone laughs a little too quickly. Someone changes the subject. Someone says, well, I knew someone who tried that and it didn't work. And just like that, your joy shrinks a little. You start second-guessing the very thing God just gave you. The excitement you felt an hour ago now feels foolish, exposed, fragile, picked apart by people who were never meant to hold it sacred. This happens more than you realize. We share too soon, too widely, with people who don't have the capacity, the maturity, and honestly, the right to speak into what God is doing. And I want to gently suggest something today. Maybe it's not your plan that's weak. Maybe it's your timing for sharing it that needs to change. There's a story, Genesis, about a young man named Joseph. God gave him 2 dreams, vivid, specific dreams about his future, about leadership, about purpose far beyond his current circumstances. And Joseph, young and excited, told his brothers everything, every detail. Genesis 37 tells us they hated him even more because of his dreams and his words. His brothers didn't celebrate what God showed him, they resented it. And not long after, they sold him into slavery, partly fueled by the jealousy his own words had stirred up. That dream was still true. It still came to pass years later in Egypt, but the road there was harder, longer, and more painful than it needed to be, partly because of when and how it was shared. I don't believe this story is in Scripture by accident. I believe it's a warning and a lesson that not every dream needs an audience the moment it's born. Proverbs 13:3 tells us that whoever guards his mouth preserves his life, but those who open wide their lips come to ruin. Guarding isn't the same as hiding. Guarding means protecting something valuable. Think about how we naturally protect things that matter to us. We don't leave the front door unlocked. We don't hand a stranger our most personal information. We protect what we value. So why do we treat our God-given dreams differently? Why do we hand them out so freely to people who haven't earned the trust to hold something so fragile and sacred? Ecclesiastes 3:7 reminds us there is a time to keep silence and a time to speak. Silence isn't always avoidance. Sometimes silence is wisdom. Sometimes silence is protection. Sometimes silence is faith in action. Think about how a seed grows. It's planted underground, in darkness, away from sunlight, away from eyes, away from noise. If you dig it up too early to check on it, you kill it. The growth that matters most often happens unseen. Roots form in the dark before anything visible appears above the soil. Your dream may need that kind of hidden, quiet season. This is why God sometimes asks you to sit on a word He gave you, to carry a vision quietly, to let a healing happen privately before you ever explain it to anyone else. It's not because He's ashamed of what He's doing in you, it's because He's protecting the process from premature opinions, premature doubt, and people who simply aren't ready to celebrate you yet. Let's talk honestly about why we share too soon in the first place. Sometimes it's excitement, pure, innocent excitement that wants to be witnessed and celebrated by someone else immediately. Sometimes, though, if we're honest, it's something else. It's a need for validation, a need to be seen as moving forward, succeeding, being chosen, especially if we felt overlooked or unseen for a long time. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be celebrated, but when we share for validation instead of from a place of security, we hand other people power over something that was never theirs to evaluate. Their doubt becomes our doubt. Their hesitation becomes our hesitation. And slowly, the plan that once felt so clear starts to feel uncertain, not because God changed his mind, but because we let noise in. So, how do you actually practice moving in silence without becoming secretive, paranoid, or isolated from the people who genuinely love you? Let's talk through this gently, step by step. First, discern your circle. Not everyone who is close to you is meant to know everything about you. Closeness does not automatically equal capacity to handle your dreams responsibly. Ask yourself honestly, does this person celebrate me, or do they quietly compete with me? Do they speak life over my plans, or do they always find a reason for caution and doubt? You don't have to cut people off harshly. You simply share less. You let some relationships stay surface level by design, not by accident, while you protect the deeper things for safer hands. Second, let God be your first audience, not your last resort. Before you tell a friend, before you post online, sit with God about it first. Process it in prayer, not in public. This reorders your priorities. It reminds you whose opinion actually matters most. It also gives the dream time to settle and grow roots in you before it has to survive anyone else's reaction. Third, watch for the urge to explain yourself. If you feel a deep need to convince someone your plan makes sense, that's often a sign you're seeking validation rather than simply sharing information. You don't owe everyone an explanation for what God is doing in your life. "I'm trusting God with this one" is a complete sentence. You don't have to elaborate further than that. Fourth, celebrate quietly when you can. Not every win needs a public announcement. Some of your sweetest victories can simply be between you and God, sacred and untouched by outside commentary. There is something powerful about a quiet celebration, a quiet thank you prayer, a journal entry no one else reads, a moment held closely, just between you and the one who gave it to you. This doesn't mean you become closed off from community altogether. Healthy sharing still matters, accountability still matters, celebrating with trusted, mature people still matters deeply for your growth and joy. The goal isn't isolation. The goal is discernment, learning the difference between sharing for connection and sharing for validation, between trusted community and noisy commentary that drains your faith. I want you to think about a dream or plan you're currently carrying. Maybe it's a relationship you're believing for. Maybe it's a career shift, a healing, a financial goal, a calling. Ask yourself honestly, who have I told about this, and why did I tell them? Was it from security, or was it from a need to be seen, validated, reassured? This isn't about guilt, it's simply about awareness. Awareness gives you the power to choose differently moving forward, to protect what God is doing in you with greater wisdom. Maybe tonight you sense God asking you to pull something back, to stop explaining a decision you've already made peace with, to stop seeking approval for a path He's already confirmed. If that's you tonight, I want to encourage you gently that pulling back is not weakness, it's not pride, it's spiritual maturity. It's trusting the gardener enough to let the seeds stay buried a little longer. Joseph's dream eventually came true in full, undeniable color. He became second in command over Egypt, exactly as God had shown him years before, in ways far greater than he could have explained to his brothers. And by the time it happened, no explanation was needed. The proof spoke for itself. Nobody had to be convinced. The proof had already arrived, fully grown, undeniable, and untouchable by doubt. That's what happens when you let God finish the process before you go looking for an audience. The result speaks louder, clearer, and more powerfully than any explanation ever could. So tonight, I want to invite you to practice this small but powerful shift. The next time something good happens, pause before you share it. Sit with God in it first. Ask Him who actually needs to know and when. Let the dream grow roots in private before it has to face public opinion. Trust the quiet season as much as you trust the visible one. You are not being secretive or strange for protecting your peace. You are being wise. You are honoring the process God is still completing in you, one unseen season at a time. If this spoke to you tonight, hit that like button before you go. It genuinely helped this message reach another woman who needs to hear it right now, in her own quiet season. And if you're learning to move in silence too, tell me in the comments. If you want more nights like this one, hit subscribe. We're building a quiet community here. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. You're not behind. You are becoming.